Instantly drop whatever you're doing.
We are from Grand Prairie. This is our hood. So we're proud of it.
Everyone knows who we are.
I'm not impressed by it.
It's a family-friendly podcast.
I should mention, we're already recording.
3, 2, 1. HotnCole, Bryan, Parra. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate you having us.
My pleasure, man. This is so cool. This is the current. Are you the current president of the school board?
I am the current president.
How's that work? I mean, because you're not elected by the officials.
Nope.
I mean, by the city as president.
Every year after the election, at the June meeting, we actually reorganize the board. It's voted on by the 7 board members.
By the board members yourself.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I have the current president of the board, and I'm going to say duly elected. There's the proper term? Confirmed elected. It's kind of interesting because you're probably going to swear in here in a week or two, but there's this kind of in between where you're determined that you are. Do you have a specific?
It's an interesting dynamic right now. I don't think I've seen a situation where the incumbent steps down and then
before.
Yeah,
and to be clear, so those who are listening, I don't. Do you mind? You know Chester.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say 2 cents on Chester.
Yeah, just Chester was actually first elected in 2006. So we're really happy and proud for Bryan to be here. But it's very appropriate for us to mention Chester, who has at the end of this term will have served 14 years on this board, and I will tell you, he's one of the most prepared individuals I've ever served with. I have been accused at times of being more of a blunt instrument, and he is much more of his over the years has really been a surgical assassin, if you will.
Nice.
Very, very quiet, but when he did speak to us, those words really carried great gravity. So he's been a great board member. I'm really proud to have gotten to serve with him. I'm also really proud that we do have Bryan Parra joining us. I know that I've heard from many people that Bryan has served on commissions with and who have dealt with him through the years, and I can just tell you that we're excited for this new energy on our board, and I believe 100% that Bryan, you're going to make Chester proud. You're going to make us all proud. So
I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
we lost our host.
Well, that was real formal and polite.
Yeah.
Thanks for all
sure,
that.
Sure, absolutely.
So I was interested in doing this because of that specific dynamic. Burke and I, we're not best friends. However, his grandmother lived directly behind me growing up. I've just known the guy literally my entire life.
Yeah.
And as I've seen Bryan get involved with the city. Now, Bryan, you served on the Parks Board. Is that correct? Or
Yep.
you still do that? Is that?
Yes, sir. Still currently on the park board and plan to continue on it as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think we have a few board members that serve in dual roles. So what brought you to Grand Prairie? Are you a Grand Prairie guy? Did you come here?
I was actually a native New Yorker, born in Queens, New York.
Oh, wow.
And then I came down to Grand Prairie, Texas in 2003.
I'm not going to hold that against you because you came on down.
Yeah.
Hey, I consistently tell people that I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could.
Very good.
Hey, not everyone's perfect, so it's all good.
Where? When was that? When did you come down? When?
2003.
Okay.
So it was one summer in 2003. My mom said, post 9/11, things aren't stable here. Economy's not doing too hot. And I happen to have family here in Grand Prairie, and all of a sudden she says, pack your things, we're going to Texas.
Nice. I think I would be happy to do that any day of the week, right? So you're here in Grand Prairie in 2003. When did you start serving on the Parks Board?
Right after the 2017 election.
Okay.
City
election, Mike Del Bosque.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Okay.
I spent a couple years after my time at A&M trying to figure out how do I get more involved in my community? How do I find organizations? How do I find people that are committed? that have similar passions and similar interests as myself.
Okay.
My
Did you know Mike that well? I mean, how did you come across?
Actually, a couple years prior to 2017, my assistant principal at the time, Salvador Sosa, got me involved into LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens.
Okay.
It's the oldest and largest
Yeah.
civic organization dedicated to the interest of the Latino community.
Very cool.
So I got involved with LULAC. I surrounded myself with more like-minded people.
And so you started in 17. And so you said a couple years before, about 14, 15 probably?
Correct.
Okay. What do you do to pay the bills?
At the time, I was a teacher.
Okay.
My first job out of A&M was actually a substitute teacher for Grand Prairie ISD. I went on to go through a certification program, and I spent the next 5 years as a middle school social studies teacher. So teaching
wow.
U.S. history and Texas history.
Man, that's a great background. And if I'm not correct, Mr. McCrary was the educator as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Yes.
for years. So
40 years,
wow.
Mr. McCray, 40 years in education.
Way to fill that role. So you subbed in GPISD.
Yes, sir.
Did you work elsewhere when you actually became a teacher?
I went down the road to Arlington, and that's where I spent my 5 years
Okay.
teaching.
Very cool. Now, aren't you a principal now?
I'm an assistant
principal.
Assistant principal.
Man, that's a lot. That's a big jump from teacher to assistant principal. How long you just start doing that? I think
It is my first year as an assistant principal.
Yeah. How's that going, man?
I am surviving.
Well, I guess there's pluses and minuses. I mean, I can only imagine how busy you'd be, operating a school, but then adding the school board to that, I'd say that would overwork you. But on the same note, you're familiar with what's going on, so you don't have to quote unquote overwork. So what made you go from being a principal or assistant principal to running for school board?
For the last 3 years, ever since my time on the park board, I have surrounded myself with people that are committed to giving back to the community. My civic engagement has increased over the years, and eventually I started asking myself the question: I see people in the community running. Why not myself?
Sure. Yeah.
They say be the change that you want to see, and that's what I committed myself to. And
very cool. We got three politicians in a room right here. Something's got to be going wrong, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool getting to know folks, and there is a bad connotation sometimes to the term politician and folks. But when you see Brian at events and serving the Parks Board for the past 3 or 4 years, you see nothing but good things. It's only natural for somebody good. I don't know you that well, but good intention to step up and run for politics.
And if I can just jump in here too, I know we talk about the load, and it is a load because being an assistant principal and being a board member, I mean that's a load.
Wow.
Wow. However, Brian is someone, and I'm going to speak about you because I don't know you real well, but I know you well enough to know that Brian does have a passion for education, a passion for serving kids, and so. Assistant principal, it's hard work, but man, if you have a passion for it, is it work?
Yeah.
Same thing with being a board member. If you really love serving the community, you really want to do what's best for kids, and that's what you're there for, and that's what you're doing. It's a load, don't get me wrong, and it can be taxing at times, but at the same time, is it really work? Man, I don't know if I could call it work. I really love doing it, and I know that, Brian, you probably feel the same way. It's not really a. Well,
it's a good point. So kind of along the lines with what I'm going with the good guy. Everybody has politicians have a bad connotation sound to it, but if you go talk to a politician, there's a whole lot of people around them that know them personally and love them and support them, which is why they are where they are. I'll argue as the larger the area that you're over, maybe you become separated from that issue, and that's probably where that connotation comes from. But locally like this, I mean, you got nothing but the top of the line folks that I come across. And people can judge from the outside, and every time, once they get in there, learn what's going on, see the decision making that's happening. I don't know if I didn't judge. Go back 10 years. I gave the politicians a really hard time. I was up in front of City Hall making speeches.
I remember some of
And
those
some
speeches,
of them were rightfully so. I stand by them. And maybe sometimes I was just being a jerk. Brian, what do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, the idea of you coming in, and I know that you have things that you want to do and things you want to change. Have you thought, and I don't mean this to be in a challenging manner or put down, but like there's going to be a learning curve and figuring out some things. For example, you got X, Y, and Z that you want to do. What if the first day they're like, well, actually, we've done all three of those, or actually, you kind of get that deal. So, is it my agenda? Is it my passion for the kids? All the above. I was kind of get your thoughts on that.
I think it's something that myself and Burke can agree on is that ultimately all 7 board members are here because they want to serve children.
Nice.
What that looks like may vary
That's
from
right.
person to person.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we want to do what's best for children
Yep.
and what's best for our community.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about maintaining open dialogue. I'll pitch ideas to the board president.
Yeah.
And then we communicate on what that looks like in a more practical sense. I may have all these ideas. They may not be realistic. I think my priorities are first and foremost children, serving children, advocating for every single child.
Yeah.
Number 2, tying our community and making it more available, bringing in our community members. That way we can bring all stakeholders to the table. One of my focuses, I do want to make
Yeah, so I'm glad you're going into that. I was going to ask you, like, what are your goals right now? I mean, you're not there yet, so I know you got some things you're thinking about. Go with that.
I think as a former teacher, I understand some of the struggles that teachers face.
Yeah.
And I do want to continue to bring that perspective to the board, advocating for teachers. I believe in maintaining transparency and being accountable to the people.
Yeah.
We are ultimately here to serve the community, serve our students, serve our teachers, serve everyone in GPISD.
Yeah.
And I want to be open those lines of communication so that people can come to me with those concerns. I bring those concerns to the board, and we come up with a plan on how we plan on addressing those issues.
Yeah, I like you actually said the word like 3 or 4 times at least, communication. I feel like when I was speaking against City Hall years ago, it's because I didn't know anything. So like a lot of those things that I would have ran my mouth about. Of course, I was just a young punk, but if I would have just known a few
You're still
things,
a young punk, Cole. Okay.
I'm a seasoned vet, homie. Right. But the communication part of it, I think, and I would encourage both of you guys with your priority on the school board, because it starts off with just a simple Facebook, like something happened and somebody's complaining about it, right? But that simple complaint has an entire story behind it. And so is it worth for your staff to sit down, scour the internet, find that Facebook post, then respond to it?
Yeah.
And so
I say no.
well, but I will say that the city, in my opinion, has found ways to do that. Whether it be taking that complaint and getting a response to it, whether Brian is available to that constituent who is able to communicate with you, and then you communicate with staff, and so forth. By far, communication seems like one of the most important things. I'm glad you included that in your goals, bringing everybody to the table. When you said bringing everybody to the table, I think that's the big deal. Go on to some of the teacher thing a little bit. You were talking about the needs of the teachers and what they want. I'm kind of curious. I mean, teachers are invaluable. You know what I mean? I don't think we could ever pay them enough, right? I mean, until we triple the budget from what it currently is, and then maybe we're talking. But I kind of like to dive down that hole a little bit. You know, getting the teachers involved. Grand Prairie teachers, especially the ones I know, they've stuck around here and they're like giving back. Very interesting.
Teachers are single-handedly the most important, the most direct influence to our students. They are the front lines. If we aren't taking care of our teachers, that in turn has an effect on the students.
No doubt.
I think that it is important to let teachers know that they do have a voice, that we are hearing their concerns, and that we're actually doing something about it.
Yeah.
As a former teacher, sometimes the struggle is feeling like you aren't being heard by administration, and it all comes down to communication. Do teachers have an avenue that they can approach their leadership to express their concerns, any suggestions? Do our teachers have opportunities to grow?
Yeah.
Are we developing our teachers? What systems do we have in place to continue to mentor, to provide the leadership training to our teachers so that if they do have further aspirations, that they can continue on those as well?
Excellent. I can't stop thinking about, because you're dealing with this directly. You're not just a new board member. You're dealing with this directly. The COVID-19. I mean, as an assistant principal, forget what you're about to do as a board member. I'm kind of curious how that's treating you and how we're educating kids.
Education has changed forever. There is no turning back. Right now, a lot of it was trial and error. We asked our teachers to make probably the biggest change to their instruction, to their careers that we have ever asked.
And immediately, right? It wasn't like, here, let's ease into this thing. It was like, hey,
Yeah, we're back from spring break, and our teachers need to get this done like right now. Our kids need to be online learning right now.
Yeah.
And not to jump in here, but we are literally, and not just GPISD, Dallas, districts across Texas and across the nation and the world, I guess, are really having to reinvent the way education's been delivered for 150 years.
Wow.
And it did. It came at a rapid rate. It was not this thing's coming. It is this thing's here now. We can't bring the kids back to school. We've got to do something different. And so I didn't mean to jump in there. I will say one thing that I'm really proud of GPISD. We did make some huge moves with technology over the last couple of years, and that really set us up to be able to handle this a lot better. Some districts, we are almost for middle school through high school, or at a 1-to-1 ratio for devices and students.
Yeah, iPads or whatever.
iPads, laptops, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So we were already there. The elementary kids is a little bit of a different story. But absolutely. I mean, it was overnight. We've got to do this. We've got to do it now. And I'm certain that teachers in Dallas were doing this also. I know that I've got a daughter. She's a sixth grader this year. And I can tell you that Monday that we didn't come back from spring break, and it was still kind of, well, we're going to be off for a few more days. And we were not really understanding the full impact of what we were going to be seeing.
Yeah.
I know that very first Monday, I walked by my daughter's bedroom, and what are you doing? And she's on Zoom meetings with her classmates and teachers, and she's already had teachers saying, "Hey, spring break is over. Just because you're at home, you've got work to do, and I know you got that device right there, so get after it."
Yeah.
So yeah.
She's doing. She's GPISD, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's rolling with that. So I don't want to get too far off. So
Sure.
How did you handle that? I mean, I'd like to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got a story or just the way it was. Like I said, spring break, we're having fun, everything's good. I had a show in here with one of the college kids, and he's like, he got a text like, "Oh, we don't have to go to school next week."
Oh,
cool.
no.
It was like 1 week. It was 1 week, right? No big deal.
I'm still in shock how quickly our teachers responded.
Yeah.
It was just no hesitation. There was truly no time to complain. It was delivered. Teachers use whatever online platform you need, and make sure that our students are continuing to learn.
Yeah, and you would have, if going back, you probably would have bought stock in Zoom, right?
For sure.
I don't know if that's even a publicly
Or
traded company.
Lysol or Clorox or Purell. Absolutely.
Well, so I guess at your school, and I don't mean to. We got to be careful not talking about DISD or whatever, but you guys you're picking it up, you're handling it, you're rolling with the punches. Your kid's going to graduate, or most of them, hopefully.
I think as an assistant principal, my biggest job is to make sure that our teachers are supported.
Yeah.
If they do have questions, make sure that I try to answer them to the best of my ability. If I don't have that answer, my job is to make sure that I find an answer for their questions, and whatever I can do to make sure that they're continuing to push out learning and that they're communicating with our students to make sure that they're doing okay.
Yeah.
I think that the quality of teachers that we have is second to none.
Well, I'd like to, with Burke, with your kind of current leadership in the board direction, and I guess we can let Bryan jump in where you probably know allowable. But you said everything's changed. Well, I mean, we're not doing Zoom. We got buildings all over the city, and we're not. I'm curious if you come thoughts, and I know there's more general approaches. You don't have to tell me specifics or anything.
Well, as far as what we're doing now and what we're going to be doing,
yeah, you said it's a game changer.
It is a game changer. So, for the time being, students aren't going to be in school, and so we're going to have to keep on the path of using the technology to deliver instruction and to deliver lessons to our students.
That's done now. I mean, and I'm okay with it because it's almost. Even if everybody was healed, there's a vaccine, nobody died. I mean, completely gone. It's end of the year. Let's just finish it out. There's no sense of getting everybody back in. Right. But I'm talking about next year. I'm talking about.
So that's one of the biggest questions that we get right now. Well, the next school year, and actually more pressing for a lot of families right now, graduations. Prom. A lot of seniors this year. Are taking it in the short, so to speak, because they've had a lot of their milestone moments get canceled, prom and graduations and things like this.
A lot of kids go to college on baseball and softball scholarships.
And I need to back up because a lot of folks just heard the board president say something about canceling graduation. That is not the terminology that I meant to use.
Yeah.
We are not canceling graduation, but we are still. Trying to figure out how that's going to work, and part of the issue that our district and I think all districts are having right now, trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're at the almost middle of May, beginning to middle of May. We don't know what kind of guidelines are going to be out from the state and Fed in June or July
concerning education and meeting, right?
Concerning meeting and education and what this pandemic's going to look like. So it makes it, without knowing what the Fed and what the state's going to be doing or advising us, and they don't know at this point.
Sure.
But without knowing that, it does make it a little bit more challenging for districts to plan. So what are districts doing? Well, I can tell you what we're doing. We are planning for several different scenarios so that we are prepared for hopefully whatever we end up with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It sounds like you're not eliminating the possibility of 45 empty buildings across. I mean, I don't know how many schools are there. I'm just
for our parents' sake. I hope that that's not the case come fall. But
for our parents, yeah.
but no, absolutely. I will say this: the online learning is great, but it's not the same. Our kids aren't getting what they would get by being in a school setting, for 8 hours a day. So, yeah.
Well, so there's one major thing COVID-19 is killing us on. It seems like things are loosening up a little bit as long as I think Texas is opening back up, I guess, is where we're at with that. And the schools have to be the most careful of all because
we've got, you take some of our smallest campuses, you're still talking, our 400 or 500 students at some of our smaller campuses and 200 or 300 kids in a lunchroom together.
I was about to say in a lunchroom.
Yeah, or a PE setting or just think about Cole, I know you went to Grand Prairie High School, so you spent some time in some of those classrooms in that 100 hall back in the day. Now, I know we've improved that quite a bit, but, you'd have 30 students in a room, and I think it wasn't quite as big as this little shoebox we're in now. So people can imagine the close quarters that our students have to be in a learning environment. And
well, that was the issue with viruses, flu spreading and cold spreading before, was your kid's going to get it, and you get it from even if your kid doesn't have the crazy flu, they give it to you and you get it.
Well, and I also want to say too, when it comes to whether or not our buildings are going to be occupied come fall, And I think that's everyone's preference, right? But the ultimate driver of that decision, 100% will be our student safety.
Yeah.
Yes, I think our students get better instruction on campus with the teacher. Not to mention all the social skills that they get from being around other students and other people. But as important as those things are, it pales in comparison to our students and our staff being safe. So I know that's going to ultimately be the driver when it comes to deciding whatever we as a district do when it comes to putting students back into desks.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot to carry. Brian, this time next month you'll be carrying that, and I couldn't even imagine. I know the city so far we've been lucky. I mean, shutting down restaurants is tough, but somebody else did that. You know what I mean? We just followed in line,
right?
But handling the kids of GPISD would be tough. Are you ready for it, Brian? I mean,
welcome to the show. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that there's no true way to be 100% ready.
Right.
I think something that Burke had mentioned, we have to have different options on the table. As we have seen, things are changing on a day-to-day basis. There's no way to fully commit to fully predict what we will be doing in the fall. I think that priority number one, student safety. What that looks like now, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But do you hear this guy though? I mean, he's kind of a natural, right?
Yeah.
And so I know you're ready, man. You may not know exactly what you're about to put your eyes on and your ears to, but I promise you, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah. It sounds like, and from my 2 cents, is staff prepares you pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the coolest parts about it. I've got my strengths, but where my strengths aren't, I've got a staff of folks that'll sit down with me and take as much time as they want with me. And I'm sure you're used to that, being in the system, but I guess once you get elected, I keep saying that, once you get elected, I mean, you're considered elected. You're considered, I think because we had 3 unopposed.
So he's not sworn in yet. So would that be board member elect?
So trustee elect.
Trustee
I
elect
believe is the term.
Okay. Trustee
elect Parra. How are you today? Hey, so I'm gonna throw a wrench here.
No wrenches. You said no surprises today.
Aggie, huh? Whoop. Yeah, I was gonna whoop. I was gonna whoop, but I'm glad you did that to fill that in. So I grew up just as a boy. Well, that sounded weird.
Yeah.
I grew up UT fan. Just hook 'em horns. That's just what you do. I mean, it's Texas, right? But 97, my brother graduates high school and goes A&M.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I still followed. That's Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, Ricky Williams. So I still followed UT, but I slowly started turning my head to an Aggie, and once UT was no longer excelling in football, I have far more allegiance just because of my family to A&M. So I consider myself more of an Aggie than anything else. How was that experience, man? Did you do yell practice and stuff like that, or you?
I actually went through the Corps of Cadets at A&M.
Oh wow.
I was about to ask, and I assumed no. I should have asked. Okay.
So I was fully immersed. Let me
Man.
tell you, I didn't know anything about A&M before I went there.
Wow.
So
that is like a full, I'm going to say almost brainwashing, like full on all in A&M. You don't like miss out on things when you do the cadet.
I didn't know how rural it was out in College Station. I don't tell many people this, but if I had gone to visit either UT or A&M, I see myself more in a city environment. So I think that
you may not have gone to.
I may have not gone, but ultimately I think wherever the good Lord wanted to take me, that's where I ended up.
Well said, yeah.
So I ended up going through 4 years at A&M, going through the Corps of Cadets, learning the traditions, going through yell practice, surviving the Corps, surviving your fifth year, fish cuts.
No way.
It was a big shock.
So what'd you major in?
I went to A&M to major in political science.
Yeah. Really?
Let me tell you, this is the irony of life. Actually, when I first moved to Grand Prairie, I said that as soon as I was 18, I was going back to New York. I ended up going to Texas A&M.
That's two opposite places, son. That's two completely different.
Manhattan, College Station.
Let me tell you, it was a far away. But I went to A&M to major in political science, and I didn't do too hot in those two classes. So a college advisor told me you probably shouldn't jump into poli-sci. And I at the time I didn't know anything else about majors. A&M's an engineering school and an agricultural school, and I didn't have an interest in either. I think as a first generation college student, I didn't have the support, or my parents at least didn't have the understanding of the American school system.
Sure.
So they weren't able to help me like they wanted to. All I knew is that I needed to get to college.
Yeah,
and that was it. I think I initially struggled trying to understand what a major was, what college credit hours were, following a degree plan. So I was kind of lost the first couple of years. And eventually I switched over to university studies.
Okay.
Race, gender, ethnicity with a minor in Spanish and geography.
Spanish and geography. Wow. Okay.
You're looking at me. What is that? It is to be honest.
Well,
it is a create your own degree plan.
Yeah.
At some point, I was like, man, I need to get out of A&M. Tuition's a little bit too high here. I need to get out as fast as I can with a degree, and that's how I ended up at GPISD as a substitute.
Okay.
I at the time I didn't have a clear vision of what I wanted to do at the time.
Got that paper though. Got that A&M Aggie paper, son.
They brainwash you. I mean, they convince you that with an A&M degree, doors will open, and as long as you have that Aggie connection and that Aggie ring, that you'll land a job anywhere. It's not about what you know, but who you know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I saw that door fly open when you came walking in it.
Whoosh. Well, so you subbed right out of it.
So I became a substitute. I thought that working for the school district that I graduated from, I'm actually a South Grand Prairie Warrior, proud class of 2009.
Again, not everyone's perfect. So.
I'm laying out here.
I know I can feel the animosity right now.
No animosity.
The anger bubbled. Hey, you're a Grand Prairie guy. You're
That's
good
right.
in my book, bro.
That's right.
I appreciate that. So I became a substitute for GPISD, and I was able to go from campus to campus, from pre-K all the way to seniors in high school.
Oh, cool, man.
And
it's a good perspective to gather.
I think at the end of the day, I try to think about how do I impact these students in the short time that I have with them. How do I impact them as teachers made an impact on myself? And I think I was able to connect with students on a personal level, make them understand, hey, like there is life after this. There is a reason. There's a method to the madness of why your parents are stressing education.
Boy, 17, I didn't care, son. 17, it was just having fun. What are we doing this weekend, man? And can't see past Friday night.
And I wanted to stress to those students that you have to have a plan. You have to start thinking. It's never too early to start planning post high school.
Yeah.
And I kind of used that same struggle that I had going through college. I wanted kids to know this is what you need to be looking at. Start planning for what you want to work in long term. What's your major? And if it's not college, what kind of trade are you jumping into? What kind of skill do you need to be building right now?
Yeah.
That way that you are able to provide for your future family, for yourself, and be able to continue to develop as an individual.
Yeah. Hey, I want to. I don't like talking about it too much because it takes away. It's a good deed. I'm telling you about my good deed. But I work with some of the kids in the district, sometimes monthly, sometimes a little bit more. But through that, the quote stuck with me more than anything. It's easier to build a good man than it is to repair a broken one. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to disregard the broken ones. We still want to work on folks that are older and broken. But when you're working with kids, you have that direct impact on them, and that you're going to have a good influence on them for the rest of their life. So glad you chose that, and thanks for both of y'all, and keep that up. I want to go back to A&M. Did you do the burn, the fire?
Aggie bonfire?
Aggie bonfire. Because there was a time there where they quit doing it, or they took it off campus, or was there? Because I know, let me say, my brother was there, not on the burn. He wasn't there on the location. He was there like the day before when it fell. That would have been like 98, 99, I think.
So my first year at A&M, my freshman year was 2009. Happened to be the 10th anniversary of the Aggie bonfire collapse, and having never experienced an Aggie bonfire or not understanding what the tradition was about, I think that going through the Corps of Cadets made it such a much more personal impact. I joined D2, which is the dog company. It was an Army unit at A&M.
Wow.
One of the freshmen from that unit was one of the 12 that passed away.
No way.
That November night.
Wow.
So we learn about the traditions, and I think that having no prior knowledge to that, you can develop.
So you were unaware of the
I knew
Wow.
nothing. I knew nothing of A&M before going to.
I guess you're right. You know, in Texas, that is kind of a thing. I knew about because my brother, but I also saw it on the news. But it was local news, right? It wasn't.
Right.
And that was '99. There's not. I mean, cable news would have been there. The Weather Channel would have been there. All the 20 different media outlets would have been there. In '99, there's 4, 5, and 6, but more like or 4, 5, 8, and 11. I think what I remember. But and those would have been just the local deals. So people in College Station would know about it, but in Manhattan, they
Syracuse State maybe or something like that.
yeah,
Right? That's
yeah, yeah. So you got to go in with zero knowledge and kind of learn about the whole thing.
I think that's where I learned that A&M probably has one of the most sacred traditions across universities, across the
12th
nation.
man.
The spirit of the 12th man, the willingness to always jump in whenever called, or if you're not called, make sure you're ready to serve. Actually, April 21st, just recently, Aggie Muster, where we celebrate all Aggies that have passed during the year.
Oh, cool.
And I think it's a camaraderie. It is a spirit can never be told, as they say at A&M.
Yeah.
And I think that's a true testament to the Aggie network.
Yeah.
Is once an Aggie, always an Aggie. You don't just graduate from A&M and forget your stories and your traditions. It is a lifelong commitment to serving and remembering those that have fallen and those that have served.
I've got 2 or 3 friends, close my age, 40s probably, but right outside of A&M, and they're A&M guys, and they got jobs with like high-end petroleum engineering, like making $150,000 a year from day one. She's using those connections. Now, not everybody has that opportunity, but that was pure and solely the A&M connection. It wasn't him. These guys are knuckleheads.
It's not the grades you make; it's the hands you shake.
Golly. On that note, that's for the person that hired him. It's a relationship thing.
Yeah.
You're an Aggie. We can automatically click and be friends.
There's a trust there,
and maybe he's a knucklehead in those first few years or whatever. But for growing that company or whatever they're may end up being a good deal. Excellent, man. So after A&M came back, substituted, principal, Parks board. Now you're running for. Golly, so you're lucky, man. You didn't have to run a campaign.
Let me tell you, we were ready to go 100%.
I know you were.
I believe. Yeah, I believe it.
I think that the experiences that I've had the last.
I'm going to butt in. I think I don't know Chester that well. But I believe that's one of the reasons he probably went ahead and said, "Nah, I'm good." He knew what was coming his way, and again, great respect for the guy, super top of the line. But he knew he was up for a hard fought campaign. So, as I saw, I'm sure he saw as well.
I think that that's one thing that about Grand Prairie that I want to focus on. In 2018, I believe that about 3% of our city had voted. A city of about close to 200,000 people.
Yeah.
It has that small town feel, but we're still the 15th largest city in Texas. I think to only have 3% of our city vote in an election, they say all politics are local.
Yeah.
I think that we, as a soon-to-be elected official, I think that one of my I want more people to be a part of this process. And I think going back to communication, I want more people to understand the systems that are in place so that they can directly impact change in their community.
Sure. Brian, I'm gonna. my goal is not to challenge you or make what you're saying sound different, but I have a response to that I've developed over the years, and it's probably flawed. So I admit that, but 3%. I think 3% vote. There's a lot to it. 3% vote in a municipality election because everything's good, and yeah, there's faults to that. I mean, there's a few holes to that. But generally, if you go, okay, yeah, and I think I've seen this happen when I run. I've campaigned a few times, knocking on doors, and they'll go, yeah, they're proud of me and getting up, and they're like, yeah, we'll vote for you. Well, who are we voting against? John Doe. Oh, I know John. He's a great guy. And suddenly it's like they love you, and I don't mean you, but I mean, John's doing great. I talk to him or call him all the time. Whether they vote or not, it's a different story. Second to that, and Grand Prairie has this problem, particularly, I'm gonna say north side of town. We have a very large Hispanic population. I don't know if it's a culture thing, or I actually think it's the same difference. I mean, you have a job, your water turns on, the trash is picked up. Why am I going to go? And of course, I'm talking about city. Why am I going to go pick a fight and vote against somebody I don't know? Third, money. Okay. In order to get everybody involved, you got to spend money, and I'm going to say time is money. So money and time, getting them involved. How much time and money are you going to spend per vote, right? To get, and what percentage is a good percentage? And understand, I'm exploring this as I'm telling you. I'm not, what percentage is good? So 3% is not good enough. Is 10% good enough? 10%, in 10 years from now, if 10% is the running number, we can say 10% of the people only vote.
Well, I'd like to jump in on this because I think it's good to get more people involved to vote. But it's not enough to get folks to show up to vote. We need people, if you're going to get engaged at the ballot, you need to get engaged with what's going on first.
That's a good point.
You need to take time. If you don't take the time to know who the candidates are, know what's going on and why they're running and what they're doing, if you don't take that time and you're just going to go up and, vote on this guy because I like the way his name sounds, or this guy had a good sign out, or this guy waved at me when I was walking into the voting poll and he sure seemed like a nice guy.
Sure seems
so
like a nice
we might
guy.
as well vote for him.
Yeah.
So I want more people to vote, but more than anything, I want people to understand what they're voting on. I also just want to, while we're on this, what kills me personally is, particularly on the school board side of it, is, Cole, just like you, we knock on doors and we talk to folks about our elections, and I heard it so much over and over throughout the years. Oh, school board? Yeah, we don't keep up with the school board anymore. And you sit there and go, okay, so I'm looking at your voter history, and yes, everyone, don't tell me that you don't vote or you do vote, because I can see it on the list.
I want to be clear. It doesn't tell you who you voted for.
That's right.
It's a record that you voted.
But we can see if you vote, and what kills me is to see where people will always show up to vote for a presidential election. They will always show up to vote for state reps, but they don't want to take the time to learn who to vote for the school board, the local school board, and the city council that has the largest effect on their daily lives than any of that.
Well, I tell you, I link that directly to money spent.
Yeah.
That's why I said money, because the state rep can spend the money on the TV ads, the billboard ads, the phone banks, whereas us knuckleheads.
That's right.
I mean, we shell out a couple grand and we're like, hey, we got to do it. Yeah.
It hurts.
I think one of the focuses is just making sure that we are constantly informing the community.
Yeah. Well, keep going, but communication, right? I mean, that's
communication. I think there was, for a certain amount of time, I don't recall anyone ever knocking on my door asking for a vote. Let me tell you, my brother is a non-voter.
Yeah.
2018, you have someone canvassing, someone knocking on doors. he says to me, is your brother home? And I said, yeah, he's home. Has he voted yet? I was like, I've talked to him. He said, do you mind if I talk to him? And I said, go ahead, man.
Go for it, bro.
If you can
This
convince
should be
him.
fun. Popcorn.
And finally, my brother blew him off. In other words, thank you for coming. I'm not voting.
Yeah.
About an hour or two later, I see my brother walking back our voting stations, Zavala Elementary.
Oh.
I see him coming back. I was like, where are you coming from? And he said, I just went to go vote. And I was like,
Whoa.
what? What happened? I've done everything I could to get him to vote. My mom reached out to him to get him to vote, and he wouldn't listen to us. And I said, what changed your mind? And he said that someone that doesn't know me took their time
Sure.
to go out and knock on my door and tell me something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that was a similar feeling when I was knocking on doors myself. Someone said, no one has ever knocked on my door for this position.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for you solely on that fact.
So there's
I need to know what those addresses were because I swear I hit every one on my list.
yeah. There's something to that.
Absolutely.
It's good, and then it's good or bad. So I have a little bit of a strategy when campaigning, and I don't want to, because my time is limited, and I spend a lot of time doing it. I want to vote. I want to talk to the folks who have a record of voting.
Mm-hmm.
So I am the one that may miss your brother.
Yeah.
I don't know how to correct that, right? Because I am spending a lot of time. I'm not.
And I do the same thing as you do, Cole. I look at the list, and because you're trying to get the most fruitful stops. So this guy's voted one time in 5 years, or he's registered but he's never voted.
Yeah.
Well, this guy
Has a mark.
has voted in every election on here. So I may not knock that door. I may stick a flyer in that door or a brochure in that door, but I'm going to make sure I talk to that guy that votes in every election.
And hey, Brian, your brother, he's going to start getting solicited now.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll be on my list next time now that he's voting.
I think just to go back off
Yeah.
what was mentioned, you're right. Our time is limited. I think it just comes down to what is the plan that you're going to use to winning in May.
Yeah.
So from the time that you announce in January to May, you have about 4 months that you have to get your message. You have to get in front of faces, and that may look different from person to person.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because it made me think, well, that's our election strategy. But what about the 3 years while we're there?
Yeah.
So that's a little challenge to get some of that information out, to make sure people are aware of what's going on. On the same note, go to a school board meeting, go to one of my council meetings, and you're falling asleep. Right.
Oh, yeah.
You want to go.
If
You
you're one of
want
my
to get
board meetings, I promise you, you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, every now and then you're like, you kind of hear a story or something they're talking about. You're like, yeah, and you kind of want to say what your thoughts would be, and then that's over, and then it's like, okay, item number 72. And you're like, oh gosh, here we go. So anyway, challenge. I mean, me too. During those 3 years, not just that campaign time, but to do what you can for the schools. As a non-board person, I challenge the board to work on communication, not because there's necessarily a problem, but because that's one thing you're looking to do, and two, the districts need to know COVID-19 just changed everything. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have newer information to release as is. I don't mean to sound like I'm telling y'all what to do. I'm running with this as I'm thinking.
I also want to tag on to the communication piece of it too, because I don't think that you'll find a board member on our board that says that we don't need to communicate better or always look for better ways to communicate. I can tell you, when I was first elected in 2012, I think I had been on Facebook at that time. I think I had an account, but never really played with it or did anything with it.
That's a good point.
And so that from 2012, man, I would say to like 2014, man, we had this huge jump in social media, and everyone now has all of these different avenues, so to speak, that they can get information from.
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge for an old dog like myself, and for a lot of folks, because wrapping our head around a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
You're an old dog in this room, but generally speaking,
In the tech world, I'm
You're ancient.
I'm ancient.
But a lot of leadership and folks who have received master's degrees in education and have worked for 30, 40 years, they're older than you.
No, I get it. And so if you are in this world, it's something that you have to adapt to very, very quickly. But just like technology, just like it changed from 2012 to 2015, it's constantly changing. So
Spring 2020, right?
yeah,
Like-
just wait, man. I don't know what the next one's going to be, but I promise we're going to have more social media outlets, and people are going to want to receive information in more different ways, and more. One thing that social media has also done to our community, and it's a double-edged sword, right? There's so many great good things about it, but social media has also put, and these devices right here have put so much at our fingertips. So if something happens on a campus and a parent thinks that it gets out, a parent thinks that they should know about it, they want to know why they didn't know about it 3 minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like, well, we got to process some things here, folks. We've got to, so it's a challenge. I think we're always going to be, I think we do a good job of communicating. I think we need to always try to do better.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, it's always evolving. So,
the communication or lack of communication, I say, what do you need? I mean, if I hear that, if somebody says we need better communication, my immediate response is, well, what do you need? Let me. What is it that you're not getting right now? Go ahead.
I think that one thing that I've noticed, Grand Prairie ISD, the last couple of years, is an increased effort in reaching out via different social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, Facebook. I think we have to meet our families where they're at. If you do a study and learn, how are people taking in their news? Are they watching hour-long news stations, or are they relying on social media in a matter of,
No question,
of
right?
seconds?
Yeah.
I think that we have, as a society, we have to continue to learn how can we process the most information and disseminate it to our community in such a manner that is impactful, gets there as fast as it can, and can reach the most people.
Yeah, it seems like a school district would have, I know our media guy, a person who, we need to be official now. Okay, let's put something nice and neat together and put it out. Whereas nowadays, it's almost like it's needed like a full department, right, of people simply for communicating out.
We have a communications department, just like the city does. Absolutely.
An entire media, marketing, communication deal.
That's right.
Very cool. So that you said, you say you do have that.
Oh, absolutely. We have Sam Buckmeyer, Galen
Sam
Broom,
Grayson,
and they head up that communications team, and man, they do a great job.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're right. I've noticed over the few years, and I feel like toward the end of Dr. Hull's, rest in peace, her till the end of her tenure, I felt like she had started to open up. She was a little bit of the type that was a little bit more, she's doing her thing, she has no obligation to let people know. But did you see that at all? I really felt like towards...
I didn't. I think that she made a lot of really bold moves over the year, and at times certainly took some heat for it. But I never really felt like she was closed off or whatever. But I will say there was... Go back to a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a time where there was some frustration, and just over some things that were going on in general. I don't want to get into all that stuff, but there was some frustration, and we really had to take a strong look at our communication and what are we putting out there, and okay, We put it here, but okay, I guess we could have put it here, and
as
here.
well.
Yeah, that's right. So I do think that
that's that trend. That's that
Yeah, and some of that is, and some of that was from new board members coming on with a little bit new perspective. I know Mr. King was really good with the communication, and that's one of the things that he kind of brought and kind of gave some new life to when he came on. So yeah, there's. I don't ever feel like like it was shut off, but I do think that there was definitely an effort over the last 3 years to really to really ramp it up.
Transform that.
That's right.
That idea.
To make sure that we were keeping up with this constantly evolving thing called technology and communication. Yeah.
It evolves so far to where that's literally all we're doing right now is Zooming. So, so Linda Ellis though, she comes on as your interim superintendent, and she's like an open door, right? She doesn't know how to not be an open door, right? I mean, that's kind of her thing.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and so first of all, I mean, and I knew that there's no way we could get here and speak for a while without getting into speaking about Dr. Hull just a little bit and Linda Ellis.
Sure, sorry about that. I didn't think
No.
We're in a transition period.
But we've and just want to say this: Dr. Susan Hull was an absolute innovator. I think that she was sometimes treated a little bit unfairly, but I will say when you look at the big picture, she was so well respected in education across the state of Texas.
Okay.
She was respected by other superintendents as well as commissioners of over education. Mike Moses always spoke very highly of her. She was one of a kind. But that being said, Linda Ellis is one of a kind too, man. And so so what a difficult position for her to be put in. We lost our superintendent very abruptly. To have to look at Linda Ellis. Now, I'll just say this: the fact that we were able to look at her and put her in that position, the fact that she has done this great job. I mean, she's now helped navigate our district through all the changes with House Bill 3.
What's House Bill 3?
That was the latest legislation that changed all of our funding from the state.
Oh wow, okay.
So there's a lot of changes and a lot of things that we thought we were going to get that we really didn't, and the way they administered some things, and so
the money changes. You need somebody there.
That's right. But she's done a masterful job of navigating through. First of all, keeping our staff together, keeping everyone bonded together in the wake of losing Dr. Hull. But then navigating us through the House Bill 3 stuff, and then also COVID-19, and again redelivering education the way it's been distributed over hundreds of years, and she's done it flawlessly.
I was going to make a general comment, and I don't want to be so like. I feel like Dr. Hull more or less transformed our schools.
Yes,
I mean
absolutely.
I grew up in these schools. I was probably the back end of. You went south in 09.
She actually, she became superintendent. I was a junior at South Grand Prairie in 2008, 2009.
That was about.
So she was superintendent during that, and I've been able to see the growth of GPI to be able to go off to school and come
so
back.
with those,
wouldn't you love to go back to school right now with all the stuff we've got going on?
Goodness gracious!
It's unbelievable that these kids
it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
I went to Adams, and they've got $1 million computers laboratory.
That's right.
Where you can learn how to create video games,
and videos.
code,
Yeah, absolutely.
do a 3D printer,
and all that was paid for with a huge grant that we got. So that all actually
all of it was free, more or less, free to us.
Free to us, yeah.
And I say that because then Linda comes on and provides this open door. And not that I don't think Susan was anti-open door. That just wasn't her thing. She was too busy transforming a school.
And it was unfortunate, I believe, for Dr. Hull at times because she was this premier superintendent in Texas. She was so well respected, and that came at a price for her. you know, so she had to be very mindful of some of the things that she put her energy and time to. Because, and it's again double-edged sword. She had people from all over the state pulling at her, needing advice, needing guidance, wanting her to go elsewhere,
seeing what they did here in this school district.
That's exactly right, and wanting
to do that there at theirs.
Exactly right.
Well, and then Linda comes in, very open door.
But I also want to say that gave GPISD all of this, the respect that she had from around the state. Really gave Grand Prairie a seat at the table at the state level.
Very interesting.
And so you know, that's been really cool. And just when Grand Prairie asks TEA, goes to TEA for something or goes to the commissioner, we usually get a pretty favorable response from those folks.
They're familiar. Oh, those folks in Grand Prairie. Well, and finish it. Sorry. Now Linda's transforming, you know, because of the Zoom and the COVID-19.
Yeah.
I mean, that I don't care who you are.
So, I mean, you heard all of these things that we were just talking about that she's navigated us through, and so important. She's kept our staff together. She's really been a uniter in our administration and the campus level. And obviously we have at this point named her as our lone finalist for superintendent.
Okay.
And so that's all public knowledge. But you know, because of all of those things, that made it I can say for me, I can't speak for everybody. It was
Sure.
an easy. Those things made it
one vote.
It made it a very easy decision for me.
Very interesting. I want to catch Brian off guard right now and see if he'll give us a yell. Come on, bro.
An Aggie yell?
Yeah. I'm talking. You don't have to go. You don't have to go full on.
No. If he's going to do this, I want him to go full on. But do I need to take my headphones off while he does it?
Right. Let's. I mean, because you got 5-minute yells. I don't want you to do a 5-minute yell.
I'll tell you, it made saying hello a whole lot easier, or opening up a speech. You often wonder, what are the first words that I'm going to say in a speech? And that, as an Aggie, you just go up and yell howdy, and if they don't yell howdy back, you yell howdy right back and get the crowd amped up and you
howdy.
get to going. A&M, the seventh friendliest campus in the nation.
Howdy.
Nice.
Howdy.
All right.
That's the Aggie yell. Okay, and the last thing, give me. You didn't campaign and say your campaign 30-second slogan to whoever you talk to, right?
I did a solid month of that before
everything went down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it, bro.
My name is Brian Parra, and as a product of Grand Prairie Independent School District, I hope to use my experience as an educator and an administrator to continue to serve the students, teachers, and community of Grand Prairie.
Awesome, man. Brian.
Guy's a natural.
Burke, thanks for coming on, man.
It's always a pleasure.
This was fun.
I appreciate the time.
Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
Cool, man.